scan the room. Jared. And the rest of the family over there. And there we go, more peeps. And camera guy. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, good evening everyone. My name is Carmen Wagner and thank you for coming to my presentation on vegetarian diets and health research. So the first thing I'm going to do is go through my outline. And I had to put it on several different slides so that I could fit everything in. But the first portion is going to be kind of my story, why I chose this subject, and some statistics about some of the health diseases, health problems that Americans have. And I'm also going to define the different types of vegetarianism that is followed in the United States. And then I'm going to go ahead and talk about, make some comparisons between people that follow a vegetarian diet and people that don't, and the different types of health benefits that have been found to occur with a vegetarian diet. And this is more description of the types of issues that we're having in the United States as far as our general health. And then at the end, I'll go ahead and do a recap of everything that I talked about during the presentation. So the first slide is some statistics from the Center of Disease Control. And this is taken from 2010. And the number one reason of death in the United States was heart disease at nearly 600,000, and closely followed by cancer. And so those are the top two reasons why people have died in the United States. And so the question that I asked was whether or not we could go ahead and change that. And actually, one of the reasons why I chose this subject is because I have been following a vegetarian diet for over a month now. And I got kind of scared. I was having some health issues. I have some family-related health risks, that things like diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis, that have been part of my family history. And as I'm aging, and the level of stress that I'm going through at work and with school and everything, I was concerned about my health. And I knew that I had to do something in order to go ahead and hopefully change that pattern that my family has gone through. So I decided to follow a vegetarian diet. And actually, one of my friends was my inspiration. She had been on following a vegetarian diet for a couple of weeks before me, because she wanted to go ahead and take control of her health. And that's why I'm excited about using this subject as my presentation. Okay. So again, these are the number one reasons that Americans die in the United States. And of course, not all of it is diet related. I'm sure there's, different, genetics and things that can contribute to those high numbers. But I also believe that our diet here in the United States is a major contributor to those high numbers. Okay, and according to the Vegetarian Society, the definition is someone who lives on a diet of grains, pulses, nuts, seeds, vegetables and fruits with or without the use of dairy products, and eggs. A vegetarian does not eat any meat, poultry, game, fish, shellfish, or most byproducts of slaughter. And so if you're wondering what pulses are beans and legumes, because I had to look it up. Okay, and so they also recognize, the Vegetarian Society also recognizes 3 different types of vegetarians. The lacto-ovo-vegetarians they include both dairy products and eggs in their diet, and that's the most common type of vegetarian. The lacto-vegetarians are only including dairy products, but no eggs. And then the vegans avoid dairy products, eggs, and any products which are derived from animals. So vegans also will not include honey in their diet because they're considered a byproduct of an animal. So this is a photograph of what a good vegetarian dish is. You can tell that it's just mildly seasoned, vegetables look really fresh, and so that would be considered a good vegetarian meal. These foods would also be considered vegetarian, but of course are not necessarily good for you. The French fries, definitely vegetables, even if they're fried in vegetable oil, vegetarian, but bad for you. The pasta is a processed white flour, which is also not good for you, and then of course the potato chips. But these are all foods that would still be considered vegetarian. Okay, so an article from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, they wrote an article discussing the benefits of a plant-based diet. And people who follow a plant-based diet have a healthier heart because cholesterol is found in animal products as meat, dairy, and eggs. So if you go ahead and take that out of your diet, then you also take out the cholesterol. And then because of that reason also, lower blood pressure is another benefit. And followed closely, a vegan diet will go ahead and help lower your blood pressure if you're having problems with that. And also can reverse symptoms of type 2 diabetes, which is really important. And the cancer death rates among vegetarians is half or 75% lower than those of the general population. And then colon cancer is, the consumption of meat is actually closely associated with colon cancer. So, that's the end of my slideshow. Okay, and I also went ahead and had an interview with Dr. Margaret Dexter, and she is a naturopathic doctor that works out of Captain Cook. And we discussed in general how she felt the general health was of people that ate meat consistently and people that didn't. And she agreed that people that were vegan were in generally in better health than those that weren't. But then she also made the concession too that because she's a physician, she wouldn't recommend a diet that was completely vegan to people that, say, had food allergies to soy or eggs or dairy, because that population would need to have some source of protein. So even though she's a naturopath, she wouldn't necessarily prescribe a vegan diet for everyone. So it depends on what everyone's individual needs are. Okay, so one of the all of the sources that I have found, and there's also a book that was written by a Dr. Joel Furman, and he wrote the book Eat to Live. And he stated that eating lots of processed foods, even though you would be considered a strict vegetarian, if your food is processed, it doesn't have the proper nutrients that you need in order to go ahead and to nourish your body properly. So you can be a vegetarian, but you can also be unhealthy at the same time, especially if you include high levels of dairy, cheese, milk, and eggs. And all of those foods have cholesterol in them, so that might be a risk factor too, even if you are a vegetarian. And all the sources that I've quoted, they are all consistent. So a healthy vegetarian diet is one that is heavy in fruits and vegetables in its most pure form. Basically raw or steamed, and And then getting your protein from things like beans and tofu, soybeans, instead of getting your proteins from meat. And so that is essentially what I found in my research on vegetarian and vegan diets. And just to go over some of the key points that I had talked to you about. Okay, Americans' high rate of disease and cancer can be related to, possibly related in part to our bad diets that are full of saturated fats and heavy in dairy products. And vegetarians also have a lower risk of disease, obesity, diabetes, and some cancers. And vegetarians are generally healthier, but some foods people may be allergic to, so they may have to include in their diet, even though they're mostly plant-based diets, just because they need to have those extra nutrients. And the diets that are most beneficial are high in vegetables and fruits, either raw or steamed, and then receiving protein from beans and tofu instead of animal-based products. Okay, and so what I want to say about what my story is, what I talked about, I've been on the diet for, following a vegetarian diet of the octo vegetarian diet, because I do go ahead and consume some dairy and some eggs. And over the past month or so, I've lost about 10 pounds. My joints don't hurt. I know my blood pressure is regulating. And so I plan on following this lifestyle change. Can't be considered really a diet. You have to go ahead and decide to commit to whether or not you want to be healthy, and having the healthy diet is integral to making that happen. And so that is it. Do you guys have any questions?
I think we're good. Nope.